Dear students, today we shall explain and discuss the session 5 of physical chemistry unit. This is the unit electrosynthesis, and in our previous class we have discussed uh, the basic and fundamental aspects of electrosynthesis. Now let us see what are the general electrochemical reactions from physical perspective. Means how and by what means actually the electrochemical reactions for an organic synthesis takes place in a designed cell in laboratory. Now you all know that the electrochemical cell for the electrosynthesis must contain an anode and a cathode and a potentiostat and solvents or electrolytes and the substrate. Here the substrate means your organic reactant, and if you consider a substrate to be converted to a product, actually you can see either there must be a reduction reaction taking place at cathode and an oxidation reaction taking place at anode. Let us consider a substrate R which is reduced at cathode and the species X oxidized at anode when the potential is applied to the cell. Okay, this is one thing you have to consider. The other thing is, whenever you are applying a potential to the cell, what happens is the charged species will migrate towards the oppositely charged electrodes. Therefore, what happens is a current will be produced and it is called as migration current or ionic current, which is different from the externally applied current. Okay, so in order to the continuous flow of current, what happens is your substrate may be R, which is electronated because it is reduced, and the a species X must be de-electronated because it is oxidized. Now, these reactions may be followed by further redox reactions to bring about the required electroorganic process. Okay, hope you understood these three steps. Now, the species once undergo reaction, what happens is they must migrate towards the surface of electrode, maybe by several processes. When the species are uncharged, it is important, when the species are uncharged, the migration may be by diffusion and convection process to bring the species to the electrode surface against the concentration gradient. Okay, now the concentration gradient are created because the species are continuously consumed at the electrode surface. Now, diffusion of this unreacted species from the bulk to the electrode surface and the reacted species from the electrode to the bulk of the solution takes place at each reduction oxidation steps. Now, what happens during this once the substance is brought from the bulk to the electrode surface and the product from the electrode surface to the bulk, there occurs a mass transport. Okay, so this may be by the process of convection or it may be achieved by the agitation. Now, the overall electrochemical reaction is affected by the degree of agitation, pH, and temperature, etc. When the electroactive species reaches the electrode, the redox reaction begins at the electrified interface, means the electrode electrolyte interface. So, the factors which affect the reaction are the degree of agitation, pH, temperature, and the applied current or potential. Okay, so this electron transfer process at the electrified interface takes place within 10 to the power minus 15 seconds. So this short time there occurs the electron exchange process. Now the current which attains certain value at a given electrode, that is an overpotential, created certain amount of equal electronic energy levels on both sides of electrode solution interface. Okay, so depending upon the electron exchange at the diffusion layer, the overpotential, the reacting molecules usually enters into various chemical reactions, and the chemical reaction ends by the electrical process to form a product. Okay, so these are the fundamental aspects you have to consider in the physical perspective of electrosynthesis. Now, when you consider the preliminary investigation into the feasibility of the electroorganic reaction, the following things to be considered means you must be know that the electrosynthesis is possible or not by means of the following things. Okay, the chemical and electrochemical synthesis may involve either one simple reduction oxidation process of functional groups or all other types of complex reactions. So this is one of the fundamental things. Means whenever the electrosynthesis is considered, there may be a simple reduction oxidation or all other types of complex reactions. Okay, the electrochemical reactions involve at least one reduction and one oxidation at the electrode, and the redox reaction may involve the organic substrate, means the reactant, and one or more components of solvent or medium included, including the solvent itself, or all the above. Means the redox reaction may involve a reactant molecule and the component of solvent medium, including the solvent, or all the above. Okay, the electrochemical method of synthesis can be easily predicted because the primary redox reactions can be predicted by either polarography or voltammetry. Okay, now whenever you consider the electroorganic reaction, it may be of two types. One, it may be a direct electrochemical reaction, or it may be an indirect electrochemical reaction. In the direct reaction, what happens is the organic substrate exchanges electrons directly from the electrode, like R, which is a substrate, plus electron to form R dash, which gives the product. Means this is a reduction reaction, simple reduction reaction, which is given in the first equation. Or it may be R, which is a substrate, minus electron to form R double dash, which forms the product, which is an oxidation, which is a direct exchange of electron with the substrate. This is oxidation. Okay, and in the indirect method, what happens is the reactant molecule or substrate will not directly exchange electron with the electrode. Okay, so therefore what happens is it is indirect with respect to the substrate but direct with respect to the other species like X and Y. Here what happens is uh, when you consider the other species like X, which may be gain or lose electron to form other species Y, which is indirect, Y reacts with the actual substrate to form Ry, which is also indirect with respect to R, and then Y plus R to form R dash plus X, which is also an indirect reaction. So here a substance to be electroactive, it must contain one or more electrophores. What is an electrophore? An electrophore is nothing but just like a functional group. Okay, so an electrophore is a group of atoms or molecules capable of accepting or releasing electron at a given potential. Okay, for example, if you consider nitrobenzene, nitro group can be called as an electrophore. If you consider the amino group of an aniline, it is also an electrophore. So the electroactivity actually depends upon the nature of organic substance and the electrode material used and the electrolyte taken. Okay, so the electroorganic reactions are either direct or indirect reactions. In the direct reactions, the substrate directly exchanges electrons with the electrode, and in the indirect reactions, the reactant or substrate do not exchange electrons directly from the electrode. And the electro exchange takes place when the substrate contains one or more electrophores, and the electroactivity depends upon the nature of organic substance and the electrode material used and the electrolysis medium or electrolyte. Okay, so you can go through these references, and we shall stop at here, and we shall meet again in our next class.